Hey guys, before we get going, just wanted to give another quick plug for the Discord server. We have a limited number of initial spots and they are filling up quickly. In fact, our most popular tier has already sold out. So if you're thinking about getting in, don't wait because like I said, the initial spots are limited. And just to give you a quick taste of some of the features you can find in our server, we actually have a couple of bots that will automatically pull up graphs for any ticker that you want and show you the technical analysis that you're looking for. So for example, if you wanted to take a look at the graph for AMD and you wanted to see the MACD and the RSI, you can simply type in the appropriate command and our bot will automatically generate the graph for you in just a few seconds so that you can now take a look at the technical analysis and do your own due diligence. I mean, let's say you wanted to take a look at the intraday chart on AMD. Well, same thing. Just type in the appropriate command and let our bots do the rest. And here's the chart for the intraday trading on AMD this last trading day. There's much more than that in the server. We have Reddit feeds, we have Twitter feeds, and this is all, of course, in addition to all of our chat channels about stocks, options, Theta Gang. If you're into cryptocurrency futures, we have that as well. And then, of course, we have the lounge where you can just sit back and relax. So if you're not in there already, make sure you join up soon. Hey guys, how's it going? For this video, it's Monday, it's Labor Day, the markets aren't open, so I thought I would do something a little bit different today. I thought I would do a deep dive into one of my favorite tickers, one of my favorite companies, one of my favorite stocks that I like to play, and my longtime viewers already know that that's going to be AMD. But I thought I'd do a deep dive video into AMD because I currently have options open on it. It's probably my most traded option of all the tickers I've ever played. It's made me good money in the past, hopefully it continues to do so. But I thought I'd do a deep dive on it just to kind of show people how I do my DD, my due diligence, how I do a little bit of my basic technical analysis, and some of the data that I look at across many different platforms and websites. So first off, I like to start off with Finviz. If you're not familiar with Finviz, I have made some videos in the past about how I use Finviz.com, that's Finviz.com, to either look for stocks and tickers to trade options on, or just do some due diligence. And this site is 100% free. There are premium versions, but in my opinion, you really don't need that for the kind of quick and basic due diligence that I do. So if we just type in AMD here, we already have it up, but just for example's sake, if you type in the ticker symbol in the top left corner, click on it, you get taken to a page like this, which will show you basically a 1-year graph of the ticker. We'll actually have some technical analysis plotted on the graph automatically for you. The pink line here shows you the 20-day SMA, the orange line is the 50-day SMA, and the gold color line is the 200 SMA. So you already have that done for you. It will even plot trend lines for you. So you can see this purple trend line on the top, this blue trend line on the bottom. So you can see it's kind of a channel that's trending upwards, which is typically what I like to see when I'm looking for a bullish stock to play options on. So that's one nice thing about Finviz. It already does a little bit of basic technical analysis for you. The one downside is the free version. You can't really manipulate this graph. You can't zoom in or out. You can't change these lines. You can't add RSI or MACD. But I use TradingView for that, which I will get to later on in the video. But some of the things that I look for when I look for some DD, I basically look for bullish companies that I want to trade options on, because for me with the wheel strategy, I want to trade a bullish stock because if I do get assigned shares of the stock, I want to be able to complete the wheel and sell out of it at some point, right? I don't want to play bearish tickers because if I get assigned shares, I don't want to bag hold them for a long time or forever potentially. So one nice thing about this, it gives you all the financial data here you could ever want. It even tell you the RSI if you want to look for it, but some things that I noted about AMD, people always take a look at the PE ratios here. Obviously, the PE ratio for AMD is a little bit high at 163. I mean, it's actually a lot high. But then again, right now, the whole market, in my opinion, is overvalued. So all of the PE ratios for a lot of the tech stocks in specific are going to be high. Some of the other cool things to look for are sales numbers. So you can see AMD was 26% growth quarter over quarter for sales. Its earnings per share was over 300% growth quarter for quarter. So again, that goes along with kind of this bullish trend on AMD. That's what I like to see. You can see it's about 50% above the 200 SMA. So again, if you take a look at this graph here, The gold line represents the 200 SMA, so you can see the stock is trading well above that, which again is a nice thing. Let's take a look at some of the other things that are shown on this website. So if we scroll down, you can see what some of the analysts have either upgraded or downgraded the ticker. Let me just delete some of these circles here. And you can see the most latest analyst upgrade or downgrade was August 24th, where Northland Capital actually downgraded AMD. But we'll have to see what happens with AMD. Looks like a few days before, another company, Cowen, reiterated that AMD was outperforming. Jefferies thought it was a buy. Then just a few days or maybe a week before that, on July 29th, two different entities went from neutral to positive or neutral to outperform. So they had a bullish sentiment on AMD. And you can see it's highlighted in green, all the bullish trends or all the bullish analyses, while the reds denote the bearish analyses. So take that for what you will. Another thing here is on the right-hand side here, it pulls StockTwits data. So you don't have to have StockTwits open as a separate website. It will pull the latest stock tweets, if you will, along the right-hand side here. But I'll show you the StockTwits data a little bit further on in this video, so stay tuned for that. Also, if we keep scrolling down on the left side here, it'll show you all the major news articles from basically the big players, right? Zacks, Benzinga, Motley Fool, Barron's, and so forth. Other basically stock websites. It's going to show you the major news that has come out. So as we can see, on September 6th at 3:30, Barron's published an article. This is more about Intel, but because Intel is another semiconductor stock, it relates to AMD. But you can use this page almost as a home page, and any new news that pops or any new analyst ratings will come up right here. The one downside is again, on the free version, you won't get a kind of live or real-time chart here, but that's what I use my brokerage for, or TradingView, even though TradingView's data is 15 minutes delayed for the free version. But that's how I use Finviz here, just to do a little bit of screening. Then if we keep scrolling down, you can see all the insider trading, and this is legal insider trading. So these are basically executives for the company that are either buying or selling stocks or options. So you can see the latest insider trading was by their SVP, I believe Senior Vice President, I'm assuming is what that means, and CFO and Treasurer. And he actually sold 14,345 shares of AMD that were valued at over 1.3 million. And you can see he currently still has 522,550 shares remaining. So you might think, oh no, if an insider is selling the shares, maybe they're bearish on the ticker. But that's not always the case, because as you can see, there's a lot of options here that are being exercised. If we look, this same individual, he consistently sells shares of stock. So I believe, if I'm correct, he's probably getting options that are exercised, and he's probably selling his stock basically for income or for salary, because you can see there's a lot of people selling their AMD stock. And you can see here, he had an option exercised and then a sale. If we see his name, again, option exercise and a sale. So I'm predicting that he's probably getting his shares assigned to him probably as a part of his contract or as bonuses. And I'm assuming he's selling them off or selling a portion of his shares off basically for income. That's my assumption here. So don't always think that if you see a lot of sales on here, I mean, as you look on the list, they're all sales and option exercises. So, I mean, even Lisa Su, the president and CEO, is the same thing. Sale, sale, sale. So that doesn't mean that all the executives are necessarily bearish on the company. Like I said, they're probably just exercising their options and taking a bonus for income. So that's basically how I look at tickers on Finviz. But then the next thing you can do is go to tradingview.com. And I've shown you this also in a previous video. But here, again, you can see the financial data for whatever ticker you're interested in. If you click on technicals, it would actually show you a lot of technical analysis and what they mean. So right now, as a summary, the technical analysis is overall sell for AMD. So there's 11 sell signals and 8 buy signals here. The oscillators, again, are also overall sell. There's 2 oscillators that are selling, 1 saying buy, 8 that are neutral. And as far as the moving averages, they're pretty much neutral overall, because there's 9 sell, 7 buy, and 1 neutral. But if you want to get more into detail, you can look at the specific indicators and moving averages to see what they say individually. So the SMA, the 10-day SMA is saying sell, the 20-day SMA is saying sell, the 100-day SMA is saying buy, however. So depends on how nitty-gritty you want to get into it. But it also shows you some pivot points if you believe in that. But a lot of good data here, again, also on TradingView. And on the right-hand corner, you can scroll through and again see different news headlines the day they come out. And again, I showed you this before. If we expand this, you can see the day's trading range for that ticker. This number shows you when the next earnings session is, the 52-week trading range, the volume, the dividend, and so on and so forth. So a lot of data here. This shows you the recent earnings and the estimates, shows you performance, financials. I mean, if you click on this, another pop-up will come up and show you more financials if you're worried about the debt to income ratio and such as that. But the other thing that TradingView does very well is if you click here on ideas, you can see other users' technical analysis that they've submitted. So for example, this user here, JP Trades 0, you can see his or her TA, and usually people will write a few notes down here, but you can see they're actually using some technical analysis with buy and sell signals. These actually look like trend reversal indicators. So it looks like the peaks are when you should sell, the valleys here when you should buy. He's also identified areas of support and resistance by these dotted lines here. So for example, this user believes that around $90 is support and about $90.77 is resistance. Currently, you can see AMD's been trading in between that range for the past few minutes, or this is on September 2nd. So he hasn't shown any DD past September 2nd as of right now. But again, you can look at multiple users' DD. So you can see this user says, I recommend it to buy. And then you can see they've drawn this technical analysis here that I'm not familiar with, but it's called Belkayate Iceberg. Again, not familiar with that TA, but this is what this individual likes to use. So it's just interesting. You can always learn a little bit. I mean, you're always going to have conflicting opinions on this because I feel like always half of these people are going to be bullish on whatever ticker you chose. Other are going to be bearish. For example, this user, Joey Stocks 1, and just keep in mind, this was published on August 27th. So this is not the latest data that he's looking at. But you can see as of August 27th, he thought that there's going to be a rally here on AMD. He has some price target levels here that he's drawn. This looks like they're going to be based on Fibonacci levels, but I'm not sure. He hasn't written any notes here. But it's just interesting to see how different people do technical analysis and how different people use different TAs. So again, this user here is using RSI and showing that it's massively overbought. He's predicting a downtrend here because he's drawn a resistance level at about 48. So you can tell this is actually some very old DD, but it's interesting because his DD was published on August 30th, which is interesting because he's showing a circle here around $50, even though the stock is trading all the way up here for 80. So again, it may have been that he was predicting a downtrend from this level. So I guess he thinks that AMD is worth actually less than $50 and not nearly where it's trading at today. But again, he wrote some notes here saying sell, sell, sell. So this individual is obviously very bearish on AMD. But again, it's just always interesting, right? Nothing anyone says here, nothing I say is going to always be 100% accurate. Nothing is written in stone and nobody can predict the future. So just take everything you read on the internet with a grain of salt. I thought another thing I would do is go into how I do a little bit of my very basic technical analysis. So I'm going to delete all of this so I can do it for you in real time. But this is the TradingView chart on AMD. As you can see, I have it set up on this line graph right now, but I might switch it just to candlesticks so I can show you a little bit of more in-depth technical analysis. So right now, if I just zoom in to kind of have a more focused in view on AMD, the only technical analysis that I have open right now is RSI. And I've personally found that I've always looked at RSI during the day when I'm trying to time when to make my plays in terms of selling cash secured puts or selling put credit spreads, for example, or selling covered calls. And I found that it's served me relatively well, but other people like to use MACD or squeeze indicators and things like that. I personally have tried them out and I always find myself coming back to RSI. So I find that just works for me. I mean, I know different indicators work for different people, but I just feel very comfortable with RSI because I think it's very simple to understand. And like I said, I've had decent success with it so far. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. The other two indicators that I've added on recently, and these tend to be very popular with swing traders, and these pink and orange lines represent moving averages. So the orange line is the 21-day moving average, and the pink line is the 50-day moving average. So both of these, I'd probably say 21 is probably more popular than 50, but it kind of gives you a sense of where the ticker is trading in relation to its moving average. So as you can see, up until about Thursday, Friday, AMD was actually trading below both the 21 and 50-day moving averages. So that tells you that it's kind of bearish, right? Because it's trading below the average values over the past 3 weeks to a little over a month. But now, as you can see, the past 2 trading days, actually past, I would say 2.5 trading days, it's actually blown past above the 21-day moving average. So that might tell you, so we rallied above it, and then even though we sold off on Friday, we still stayed above the 21-day moving average. So that might tell you that now we're trending from a bearish to a bullish trend short term. But as you can see, it's still trading below the 50-day moving average. So what I'd love to see is for AMD to blast above the 50-day moving average. And that tells me that it's going to be more of a long-term or more of a medium to long-term bullish trend on AMD. But right now I am happy because I do own some cash secured puts currently on AMD. So I am a little bit happy that it is trending above the 21-day moving average, and hopefully this coming trading week it stays above there. But on previous videos you can see a few weeks ago AMD really gapped up because it was trading for 40s to 50s for quite some time, and then in a very short time period it blasted off all the way up to the 70s, then 80s, and then very recently all the way above to the 90s. But as you can see, we have some gaps here. So if you believe in the theory that all gaps are going to get filled, there will be a time, hopefully not in the near future, that these gaps will get filled, meaning AMD is going to trend back down to the low 60s and also to the low 70s. So what you can do on TradingView, if you just click this chart here, and you can hit Alt-T as a shortcut, but if you can open a trend line here. As you can see, wherever you click, it's going to draw a trend line. So let's say we draw a trend line right here because this is where this gap is. So you can see it's going to put a line here just like this. Now, this you have to draw manually if you wanted to be a little bit more accurate, because you could actually make this thing crooked if you really wanted to, if you weren't careful with it. So I'm just going to delete this. And instead, if you draw a horizontal line here, which is Alt-H, it will automatically draw a perfect line for you. So if you just click, boom, you have a perfect line. It even tells you what the dollar value here is on the side. So you can draw actually another horizontal line, let's say right here. And we're going to hit Alt-H to bring that up. And there you go. So that's one gap that may need to get filled right now between about $62 and $64. Now another gap is going to be right here. So again, we'll just press Alt-H, draw a line, and then let's zoom in a little bit to get a little bit more accurate here. So let's draw it right about here because that's where the top of this candle is. And actually we're a little bit low, so let's just move it up just a bit. You're right about there. So that's another gap that's between about 71 and 74. Now, the key thing to remember is when anybody draws these trend lines, these dollar values are not 100% accurate, right? So we're not really focusing on specific dollar values. We're talking about areas. So when I say $62.02, I'm talking like 61-ish to 62-ish to 63-ish, right? We're talking about areas. We're not talking about specific, don't say, oh, okay, looks like the support here is 62.02. So I'm going to sell a cash secured put at exactly $62. So that way I have a 2-cent buffer. It's not how it works. And so the other thing, some people could even argue instead of drawing the gap from here, draw it from down here because that's where we closed and that's where we gapped up. So we can do that as well and move this down all the way down here as well and say this is actually the gap because the price went from here to here and then from here to there. And then if we actually look, there is a little bit of a gap here, or there was. So if I draw a line here by pressing Alt-H and another one here, you can see there was a gap here and then it got filled right here because the price moved through that. So I'm actually going to go ahead and delete these because I don't want to keep them on my graph. And then as we see recently, there was actually a gap that formed right about here. So the stock went from roughly $90.09 and it gapped down to about $88.53. So hopefully at some point And I really want this gap to get filled soon because I want AMD to get back up there because I have some cash secured puts on right now that are at the $85 strike price. So I really need a rally this coming week. Otherwise, I'll have to roll them out again or just get assigned shares of AMD. But so right now, if I just zoom out now, I've drawn 3 different gaps. And of course on TradingView, you can make these lines thicker or thinner. For example, I can even turn them into dashed lines if I wanted to, just so they don't, stick out as much. I can even change the color if I wanted to make them yellow so they're a little bit more bright. You can play around with TradingView, and that's one of the things I like about this platform, that has a very good visual appeal. But anyway, I'm going to change this back, and if you want, you can just hit the undo button, just like on any sort of Microsoft product like Word or Excel. You just undo all of your changes, so it's very simple, especially if you make a mistake. And we can see this line here is where the stock is currently trading at 82.02. So that's how you can do some very basic TA on technical analysis. If you wanted to draw some trend lines, what you can do is, for example, you can zoom out, and again, we're going to go up here and we're going to draw a trend line here. So the real question is, where do you want to start and stop your trend line? Because right now, let me just get rid of this. If you want to take the recent downtrend, because you can see, if you zoom out, AMD's kind of been trending up the whole time, but now we're setting lower lows, meaning here was the previous low recently, then there was a low down here, then there was a low down here. So we were in this channel that was downward trending. So you could draw maybe a trend line, something like, I'm gonna have to fix this, but something like this, where you could draw a line from the top of this candle here to the top of where we are now maybe. And then for the bottom, you can draw a trend line, maybe from the bottom of this candle here to maybe the bottom of that red candle there, something like that. We're going to adjust this to make it look like that. So you can kind of say, look, AMD's been in this downward trend these past few days and weeks in this trading channel. So what I'm going to look for now is for AMD to break above this trend line. So that's going to be a break above roughly $83. So let's say on Tuesday, when the market opens, AMD closes above this trend line, and then Wednesday, it closes again above the trend line, so we have confirmation. Then you can say that we've broken above this downward channel, and then maybe we're going to start an upward channel. So maybe at that point, we can get rid of these trend lines and instead draw a trend line that's upward sloping. So maybe you can do something more along the lines of this. So draw it from this bottom candle and then up to wherever AMD is going to go. So obviously this is very fluid. It's also very subjective depending on how you want to draw these technical analysis, but it's really just kind of an art form. And with any art form, there's a little bit of artistic license there. So you can draw these however you want. And this is the reason why if you go on TradingView and look at other people's technical analysis, it varies widely. There's no necessarily right way or wrong way to do it. And there's people out there that don't believe in technical analysis at all. They think this is all voodoo, which is perfectly fine. So just take everything with a grain of salt. Nothing, again, is written in stone. So no matter how much research and due diligence you do, you can have days like this past Thursday and Friday where the market is just going to do whatever it wants to do and doesn't care about what the technical analysis says it's supposed to do. So that's some rather basic technical analysis and how I use TradingView to analyze some of my tickers. Let's go to Robinhood just to see what kind of technical analysis or DD we can do on Robinhood. So I already have AMD pulled up here. You can see Robinhood is very simplified in terms of 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, 3 month, 1 year, 5 year graphs on any ticker. So don't have to mess around with it a lot. You get a quick and easy view of what your ticker is doing. Actually, if you press expand here, you can get a full screen graph with some volume bars here to see what the ticker is doing. But I don't think a lot of people use this, and you can only get this on the desktop version. I don't think you can get this when you're using it on your phone as an app. But let's close this and go back to the main screen here. It gives you a little bit of a blurb about what the company is if you're not familiar with it. Tells you when it was founded, what the average volume is, PE ratio. So very basic technical analysis or data compared to TradingView or Finviz. But again, it goes along with its clean UI or clean user interface. Gives you a little bit of a quick and dirty analyst rating. So of 37 ratings, 41 analysts say buy, 51% say hold, 8% say sell. And it kind of says the bulls are saying that AMD's recent CPU and GPU offerings have been more competitive. The bears are saying Intel is still the dominant player in the processor market. So kind of get two different opinions about what different people are saying and see whose side you're on. Have a quick view of what earnings sessions were like in the past and some other associated or comparable companies and how they're doing to see how maybe you're going to predict AMD will do. Because for example, if you say, well, Intel and Nvidia are both in the semiconductor sector and they're actually in the red, so maybe AMD is going to be in the red because they're in the same sector. Again, not a guarantee, but just some added information there that you can use. But that's really all I do or look for on Robinhood. I pretty much just use Robinhood for the clean user interface and the easy to read options chain, but I use the other websites and other platforms for my more in-depth analysis. So as I mentioned earlier in the video, here is StockTwits. So again, when you're on this website, and this is free to use, you can just type in your stock ticker, click on it. It'll bring up some very basic kind of graphing about what the ticker is doing. It's showing that the price is down 0.6%. It was down 0.6% the last trading day. Post-market, it was down almost another 0.5%. Sentiment hasn't really changed that much, but it is down 0.06%. The message volume based on AMD's ticker is down a little bit. I mean, minimally at 0.01%. But again, you can look at the 1 week, 1 month, 1 year graphs, the all graph in the entire time this ticker has been publicly traded. Fundamentals, again, very basic. I'd recommend using TradingView to look at the fundamentals more in depth. But the real kind of headline or the real reason to use StockTwits is to see how people are tweeting about that ticker. But again, I don't look at StockTwits that much because a lot of this is, I would say 50% bears and 50% bulls, no matter what ticker you're looking at. And this is basically Twitter for stocks. So it's just primarily people's opinions. I mean, some people may even be here trying to pump and dump the stock. You don't know. But you can see people are posting GIFs. They could post memes. They could post technical analysis. So this is more of a just kind of fun time thing I do. Meaning if I'm just curious about what a ticker is doing, I can post on StockTwits, or I can just take a look at what people are posting just for more of a kind of news source, not really for trading or technical analysis due diligence. One interesting thing I saw today is AMD is now selling this bike, which I'm not gonna lie, I kind of want one. And if you stay to the end of the video, you can see the website where you can purchase one if you're so interested. But I will say this does look like a pretty snazzy bike, and actually the price is pretty reasonable. So stay tuned for that. And lastly, if you really want to get news sources from reputable websites like Barron's or Benzinga and so on and so forth, just go to good old Google, type in the stock ticker in the search bar. If you scroll down, you'll see the top stories from major news sources like Tom's Hardware, Forbes, Laptop Mag, and you can keep going forth. Tom's Hardware again, FPS Review. But here's the one thing that caught my eye today. So I clicked on this news article from the FPS Review, and you can see this was just published a few days ago, that AMD is reportedly dropping big Navi prices following the GeForce RTX 30 series announcement. So who knows? Hopefully we'll get a little bit of a gap up and a little bit of a pump when the market opens on Tuesday if AMD is now dropping its prices. So it's great because you can see there's a tweet here. It says AMD wants to release the 16GB version at just under $600 and the 8GB at $500. But after the Ampere announcement, they're expecting basically a $50 decrease in the price of the 16GB version and the 8GB version to stay the same. So that's going to be good news for computer enthusiasts and gamers like myself, because they just reduced the price to kind of compete with their competitors, which is awesome. So you can always use news like this to see if you think a stock is going to be green or red the next day. I mean, for example, if this article said the opposite and said that AMD is going to now increase the prices of their GPUs by $100 each, well, you can imagine the market is not going to really like that. Or people could say, wow, that's great. Now AMD is going to generate even more revenue from their sales. So again, it still could go either way, but it's just nice to be in the know and not be surprised if a stock ticker all of a sudden gaps up or gaps down one day and you can't figure out why. So that's really how I do my due diligence. I don't spend hours and hours looking into a ticker, I mean, if you're looking at a stock for a buy and hold strategy that you're going to hold for the next 5, 10, 20, 30 years, then yes, you want to do a lot more in-depth research, spend a lot more time because you're in it for the long haul. But for someone like me that basically wants to trade options on it or swing trade on it, then you're more inclined to look at short-term and mid-term news and technical analysis and due diligence as opposed to long-term data. So as promised, let's take a look at this mountain bike that AMD is currently selling on their fan store. So you actually can have multiple options. So if you go to the AMD brand, they actually have a mountain bike and they have a cruiser if that's more your style. This looks more old school. The prices are the same at $299 US. I mean, this fleece actually looks pretty snazzy. Might have to pick one of those up, but take a look at this mountain bike. I will say I do like the styling and I like the color combo. I mean, you have 3 options to choose from: a black frame with white wheels and a little bit of an orange on the handlebar there. You can get a more of a classic white frame with the classic black tires, or you can go all out and get the white frame with the orange tires, which is kind of my choice right now because it sticks out a little bit and I'm really digging the orange tires that match the orange handlebar. But this bike looks pretty legit. I mean, shipping is $50 and it's only in the United States, but I will say for $350, not bad for a mountain bike, you know? As always, this is not mountain biking advice. We'll have to see how my AMD cash puts play out this week, because if I can fund my mountain bike purchase with AMD, basically make AMD buy the bike for me, you know what? I'm all for it. So leave a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you think I should buy this AMD mountain bike. As always, if you're not in the Discord server, you're definitely missing out, and the early bird gets the worm, so make sure you get in there. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the YouTube comments below, or better yet, in Discord. And as always, happy trading.